Howdy, hi, hello, everybody, and welcome back. Today we are going to be discussing group counseling. We're going to go in detail and get this stuff learned, memorized, what we need to do to pass our NCE. Now, in our previous video, we did questions 400 to 430. We are using Howard Rosenthal's Encyclopedia of Counseling, the purple book everybody refers to as. And it is amazing. That's why everybody recommends it. But let me go ahead and pull it up. Choo, 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 choo. And with this one, I will try to kind of like the old style of, if I could make it full screen, going to different websites to help you guys see examples this time. So I'll try to go into as much detail as I possibly can, okay? Now let's go ahead and begin. I'm so excited. This time I actually have some energy, so hopefully that stays there. Let's begin. So, a group setting has a flexible seating arrangement in which clients are free to sit wherever they wish. In this setting, it is likely that, and I'll give you guys a second to read that. You can also just pause it, read it, and then, okay. So here the answer would be D. Now, one thing to keep in mind about human behavior is that we love similarity, things that are like us, people who are like us, people who are similar to us, dress like us, act like us. And when we're talking about group counseling, if you're going into a room with a bunch of random people, it is very likely that you will sit next to someone that is similar to you in some way. So, for example, here the Asian American leader and the Asian American client would sit closely together. Now let's look at another example. So here, a group setting, again, has the flexibility of seating arrangements. They can sit wherever they wish. It is likely that what? Again, I'll give you a second to read. I just dropped my phone on my leg. It was quite painful. Okay, same thing here, but this time we're talking about clothes. So it is likely that somebody in a designer suit and another person in another designer suit will sit close together. They're not the same race, but they are the same like class in their brains. Like this person can afford the same suit as me, they must be similar to me. And so I'm gonna go sit next to them. Likes attract. Social class means more than race in terms of a group setting. Crazy. All right, 433. I said I was going to go into detail, but it's because these are pretty simple. We'll go into detail in the complicated ones. Okay. Which statement made by a doctoral level counselor is illustrative of a leader focused on process rather than product? So, process is we're actually working through the group counseling process. Now, things to keep in mind, it's very different when you're working with a group versus an individual. So, here, for example, where you say something like, I hear a lot of sadness in Betty's voice, immediacy. That'd be great if it was just you and Betty in the room. And I mean, still, you can do it, reflection of immediacy. That's a part of the counseling skills. But because we're focusing on the group process and how the group is working together and coming together, typically we're going to relay group process being something in between group members. So, for example, you wince whenever Jane here raises her voice. And this is him talking or her talking to another member and saying, like, this is what I noticed that you're doing when this other person in the group is speaking. And so you're connecting to group members, you're focusing on the group process rather than the product. Okay, process focuses on the process or manner in which the communication transpires. All other choices are primarily on the analysis of the client's material or what is sometimes called content. So again, there's not a wrong thing with talking to a client about their content and their process and their material, but because the question is worded, which one of these is aiding in group process or focusing in group process, that's what it would be. 433. So, which statement made by a group leader in a residential center for adolescents focuses on product rather than process? So again, we just talked about process versus product. Process focuses on the process. All the other choices focus on what is called content or product, right? So here it's asking which one of these focuses on, oh, I gave the answer away. It's okay. On the product. So this is not interaction between group members. And the answer to this one would be A. Ken has not stolen for a week and thus is eligible for supplementary tokens. That's a product, something is happening because of his behavior, but it's not a process, as in we're working together within the group. 435. Groups promote a concept of universality, which suggests that I'm sorry, I forget to pause for reading. The answer is D. They suggest that we are not the only ones in the world with a given problem. And that makes people feel less alone and it makes people feel more connected and it makes you just feel better overall. Your exam may substitute the word mutuality for universality. Okay. In the late 1930s, oh look, finally something I can go into detail about. Researchers identified 3 basic leadership styles, which were they were autocratic, also known as authoritarian, democratic, and laissez-faire. Let me get mm, images so I can show you guys. Share this screen instead. Okay, so they're pretty simple to understand. Autocratic, I like to think of like an authoritarian, like I have the authority, I'm gonna tell you what to do. Laissez-faire, I like to think of it as I'm lazy and I want you to do it yourself. Again, these are just ways I remember. That's not exactly what they mean. It's they trust them. It's not that they're lazy. This is how I remember it. And then democratic, of course, like the government is supposed to be. What do you think we should do? How can we work together to come up with a solution? Things like that. So those are the 3 different types of leadership. Now, depending on what your task is will determine what the best leadership is. So, for example, sometimes an authoritarian leader would serve a purpose better if the group has like really bad motivation and doesn't know or doesn't want to do certain things. And he just or she just comes in and is like, this is what we're going to get done. This is my time frame. This is this and that. And voila. So sometimes it can be really good. Democratic can also work well on certain situations, and laissez-faire can also work laissez-faire. Sorry, that's just how I remember it. Can also work well whenever the people are highly driven and motivated and want to do it themselves as well. So all things to keep in mind, but those are the different kinds. Let's go back to our question. And I'm sure he's going to explain it here. So if you want to read it, feel free to pause it. And then for review purposes, choice D describes the three communication modes used by assertiveness trainers to determine or discriminate clients' response patterns, which were assertive, non-assertive, and aggressive. Okay, let's continue. Okay, now we're going to do a lot of examples, I think, if I remember correctly, with these different types of leaderships and how they would be applied. So the autocratic or authoritarian leader may give orders to the group, while the laissez-faire leader will usually do what? So, like I said, they're kind of lazy, not really, but in my opinion, this is how I remember it. They are hands-off policy and participate very little. Effective leaders have discovered that modeling appropriate behaviors improves group participation, even when the members are resistant. Cool. Next, when comparing the autocratic, democratic, and laissez-faire styles, which one is the most desirable? So again, this question is vague. It is every test taker's nightmare because, like I said, it does depend on the context. It does depend on what we're doing. So it decidedly does not delineate the specific group situation. Hence, the best way to answer this is in most situations. So democratic style is not the most effective. However, it probably lends itself to more situations than the other two. Leaders focus primarily on the here and now and are called speculative leaders. So this is democratic. Now, why is it not the most effective? If you really think about it, you're in a group with like 8 to 10 people. Do you really think that those 8 to 10 people are going to all mutually agree on the same exact rules, things, goals? Probably not, especially if these people are very different, have never met, that kind of thing. So it's not always the best, but it does lend itself, like it said, to most situations because you can work together and still have some authoritarian in you. Um, so that's also something to keep in mind. But when it comes to the test, very important. Do not think of it as this is what we would do in real life and in the real world. Think of it as in an ideal world where everything is perfect and nothing bad exists, and there are no like missed appointments, there are none of these issues that we deal with as counselors, then what would the correct answer be in the ideal world? And then that's usually the right answer. So also things to keep in mind when you're answering this and you're like, oh, but when I was in my internship or doing this, we didn't have that. Yeah, but that's not what the test wants you to say. So keep that in mind. Okay, next question. 439. A group leader is more than one leader, a group with more than one leader is said to utilize co-leaders. Co-leadership is desirable because, now we'll pause. Okay, the answer is all of the above. The group can go on even if one leader is absent. Two leaders can focus on group dynamics better than one, and leaders can process their feelings between sessions. All of the above are correct. Now, what are some cons of group leadership? If you guys have different therapy modalities that you practice, that's a con. If you try to talk over each other, that's another con. Don't allow each other enough space to both exist in the group, another con. So the answer was D. It does reduce burnout and helps ensure safety. Oh, look, that's the only one that makes sense. The answer is A. I don't want to like go down too far because I don't want to give the answers. Co-leadership, we're on 441 now. Okay. It's helpful when one leader is experiencing countertransference. They can recognize it for you. Transference refers to a client's issue. Countertransference, it's the helper's issue. So transference is like the client putting onto you feelings of like another person, like they might see you as like a motherly figure or something. And then countertransference is the therapist having certain feelings for the client, like seeing them like a brother or a child or something, somebody else in their life that they are reminded of. And because of that, you treat them a certain way. Co-leadership, also referred as co-facilitation, can be disadvantaged. Oh, look, this is again all of the above. Leaders are working against each other. This can fragment the group. Leaders are intimate with each other. Leaders question each other's competence. Oh, if there is difficulties, they should use effective conflict resolution during the session rather than pretend everything is wonderful. Okay. 433. Co-leaders are apt to work at cross purposes when the answer is they do not meet between sessions. Oh, I totally did not realize it's right there. Choice B is recommended for co-leaders, while choices C and D are irrelevant. Corey, oh my gosh. Take me back. This is literally, I read so many of the textbooks that Gerald's Corey made. He has written extensively for their group therapy and believes blank is necessary for an effective group leader. Do, 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 do. I would say participation in a therapeutic group and participation in a leaders group because I had to do that when I was in like that class. I had to be a part of a group. I love getting things right. Okay. Most experts believe that an effective adult counseling group has 9 to 12 or 8 to 10 around there. For children, you want to have less. So for children, you want to have 5 to 6 in adolescence. And an ideal group would be about 8 adults. Some experts feel that groups conducted over, say, you can have as many as 10 members. Okay. Most experts would agree that an effective group counseling for children has less members than an adult group because they need more attention. So 3 or 4 children is generally recommended for children, and then 8 to 10 in an adult. Okay, although the sessions vary, most experts would agree that 2 hours per session is plenty of time, even when critical issues are being addressed. With your counseling sessions, you do an hour, and I feel like sometimes we struggle to fill that last few minutes, depending on the person. All right. In terms of group risk, I need to read these as well because I haven't read these. So I'll give you guys time to read while I read as well. Do, 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 do. Oh, for sure. We want to discuss them during our initial sessions because that's just something that you should discuss. So, for example, a group risk could be something like if informed consent. So, if you tell everybody, yeah, like here, everything's confidential and we're expected to not share and we shouldn't share each other's things, let's keep this between the group. You cannot guarantee that 8 members or 10 members or 12 members, depending on how many you have, every single member will keep the things that they learn to themselves or the things that they hear to themselves. So confidentiality is a big risk when it comes to groups. So for this one, of course, you want to make sure that you discuss that at the beginning. And adept group leader will do what? So one of the things that I have noticed with like people who take the test, and I've said this before, is that they don't say that they struggle so much with the content of counseling, more so the way that the wording of the question is. So it's a reading test as well. Make sure that you read everything to the T. I have a really bad tendency of just skimming and then like trying to see the answer. But the day of your actual test, read absolutely everything and use context clues. Now, this test is tailored to a white female in her like 30s who's had a lot of life experiences and have experienced and have learned certain vocabulary that not POC have, right? So for example, earlier there was another word, apt, now adept, and I will just search it with Google. Oh, well, it means like adequate, very skilled person who is proficient at something. So they will be able to, da, 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 they will work. Okay. A and B, it sounds perf. They work to reduce the risk of dangers and they attempt to safeguard clients against risk. Okay. A group participant wants to drop out of a group. Since the group is closed, the ethics state that the client must be allowed. You cannot force, well, again, depending on the group. Because if that person is there for court mandated things, no, you can't force them to be there, but you can like let them know I'm gonna have to report to the judge that you're gonna not do group counseling and you're refusing to participate for whatever reason. So they must be allowed to withdraw. Group leaders shall inform members that participation is voluntary and they may exit at any times. Now, is it realistic? That the question, probably not. But again, we are not dealing with the realistic world. We're dealing with the ideal world and what we're supposed to do. Okay. 451. During the initial session of a group, the leader explains no smoking and no cursing will be permitted. This is known as setting our ground rules. Ambivalent transference is like the unbeknownst transference. Blocking is stopping something from happening or like a pattern of behavior that you notice is not healthy for the group, stopping it from happening. And scapegoating is what other group members do to one particular group member and they will just like blame everything on that person or use that person as the scapegoat. Psychoanalytic notion that often thrown out in multicultural circles, suggesting that a client may treat a therapist with ambivalence. He or she would view as any person of an authority figure. Okay, I'm pretty sure I just said all of that. Okay. Ah. Group norms. These are normal behaviors. These are the things that we're usually going to accept and do within our group, our behaviors. D. I gave that answer way before. It's because you see how if I scroll too high, you don't get to see, like it's not right in front of you. Okay. The study of group operations is said to be called the group dynamics. We talked about this earlier. The difference between dynamics. Okay, I guess we can look through all of them. Group stages, cohesiveness styles, the hot seat, Fritz Perls in therapy group. A person who is a target of the therapist's intervention in the here and now is said to be in the hot seat. Cool. Okie dokie. 454. The word dynamic means the group is dynamic process. We are changing. We're trying to get better. We're trying to be better people, right? Not get better. So the answer is B. Oh, 5 more questions. Okay. Experts firmly believe that a common weakness in many groups is a lack of setting goals. Goal setting is really important, and you should try to aim for setting SMART goals. When I say SMART goals, what do I mean? What is coming to your brain? I hope that it is the acronym. I'm going, guys. I have a whole little picture on this, but I'm not gonna share that just yet because it's not done. Let me share this screen. Okay, so a SMART goal is something that is specific, it is measurable, it is attainable, it is relevant, and you can do it on a time basis. So when you're setting goals, try to make sure that they, again, I'm not your boss. I can't tell you what to do, but I would recommend that they be in this format because this is a great format. And it's important to set goals because then you have something that you can go and look forward to. Okay, now let's continue. Do, 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 do. Okay. A group leader who utilizes an abundance of group exercises is probably running a structured group. Yeah, like a behavioral group. So they are like, this is what we're going to do. This is our structure. This is what I'm going to teach you. This is how we're going to practice it. That's how a structured group works. Versus an unstructured group would be a lot of like, okay, like let's talk about it. What do you think? How did that make you feel? Has anybody else experienced something similar to this? And then just having them work through their problems, talking within the group. Not to say that you can't run a structured group and still talk about your problems, but this one is just more laissez-faire. Okay, next. Some theorists object to the word unstructured and group process because, okay, a group cannot have structure would be the answer. So some research indicates that structured exercises in the initial stage of the group can facilitate better communication. But when we're talking about them, assertiveness training group would generally use a lot of structured exercises because they're trying to teach you how to be more assertive. And then over here, unstructured, it's just because there's so many different people, like it is really hard to have structure, but that does not mean it's impossible. Okay. 458. Some research demonstrates that, oh, we just read about this. Okay. Okay. So the answer for this one is B. Structured exercises with feedback early in the group serve to improve communication between group members. Okay. C, again, it's that's not what authoritarian leaders do. They're very like, this is what you're gonna do, not communication. And then try to avoid things that rely on words like always or never. So spotting answers sporting the word always are almost always incorrect, and those using never are almost never correct. Okay. In some literature, group cohesiveness or we-ness is known as group unity. Group members assume group roles. Which of the following is not a group role? Reactive schizophrenia. Should I just go real quick? How many more group questions do I have? No. No, we are not doing that. We're gonna stop there. So let me go ahead and stop sharing. This has been lovely, guys. I feel like I learned a lot. I hope you learned a lot as well. I will do another 30 questions. This is a good like amount for me. I know I have some videos where I do like a 50 questions and that was just exhausting. So 30 is a good amount. I'll try to do some another day. We're getting into crunch mode, so I'm trying to get as much of this done as possible. Now I'm gonna go work on an infographic for bipolar, and then I'm gonna do a video on that on my TikTok. So if you're interested, you can skedaddle over there. Um, yeah, I hope you guys have a wonderful day and I hope you learned something. And that is it for me. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.